Hey, what's up everyone? This is Alvin Teaches Poker, and today I want to teach you one of the secret techniques that high stakes players use to navigate multi-way pots that small stakes players are completely unaware of, and knowing this technique will drastically improve your EV. So this is the 100K buy-in super high roller online event. As you can see, this table features a host of legends: Sauce, Linus, Nick Petrangelo, Jason Koon, Foxen. It is crazy. Linus opens minimum with Ace King, gets called by Jason Koon on the button, a little speculative with 5-4 suited, gonna get a little spicy there on low boards, and Alex Foxen calls in the small blind with pocket deuces. Obviously, Alex Foxen starts with a check, as I imagine he does with nearly his entire range here, and action is on Linus. Now, what does Linus do here? Does he bet? Does he check? And if he bets, how much does he bet? Lock in the answer in your mind. What does Linus bet here? And the answer is Linus checks. Now, Linus is in a situation that I like to call monkey in the middle. That is, he is in position and out of position to players. When you are monkey in the middle, I recommend that at almost all stakes and across almost all board textures, you check your entire range. Now, of course, there are going to be some theoretical exceptions. If the flop comes Ace King high and it's cutoff versus button versus big blind, you are the only person who can have aces and kings and ace queen, etc. That's going to be a board where you can have some sort of betting range. Also, when either one of the players is notoriously horrible, you should have a betting range to just focus on value extraction. But when you're playing against many amateur players, you should be checking your entire range for a lot of reasons. First, if you segment your flop strategy into bets and checks, well, your hand is going to look a lot more face up. When you have strong hands and you have bluffs, you bet, and when you have weak and mediocre hands, you check. And so if your opponents are observant or just very aggressive in general, you're going to face a lot of problems after you take a line when you check, and you're not going to get that much action when you bet because people are just going to recognize that you bet when you have strong hands and you check when you don't. So, for deception's sake, checking here is extremely good. Also, checking here gives you what I like to call relative position on your opponents, which is you get to see each of your opponents make an action before you make your next action. So let's say Linus checks here. He gets to see what Jason Koon does and Alex Foxen does before he has to make his next action. So let's say Linus checks and Jason checks. Now on the turn, he gets to see what Foxen does before he makes his next action. And so let's say he has a bluff here. He gets to see both of his players be uninterested in the pot before he puts in any more money. Similarly, there will be some situations where Linus will check, Jason will bet, and then Foxen will raise. And now Linus can get away from a ton of hands. So for example, if Linus has aces and the flop is 4, 6, 9, Jason Koon pots it. Not that I assume that he would ever pot it on this board. And then Foxen jams. Well, then Linus can fold aces on the flop and put in no money while behind, which is just amazing, especially in tournament structures. I know that this is the 100K high roller, right? These are particular opponents who have reads on each other. These are, different stack sizes, but this is a strategy that is extremely applicable even at the small stakes. And you'll find very often on ace high boards and king high boards, when I check in a three-way position, my opponent on the button should be checking extremely often, but often they will bet instead. And so you'll find that from an exploitative standpoint, checking out of position actually is going to be better than betting in many situations. So let's take a look and see how the hand continues. So Linus checks, and now Jason, with double backdoors at the bottom of his range, is going to be very obligated to bet, and he's going to have a lot of cards in which he can continue to put on pressure. And since Linus is going to be checking both strong hands and weak hands here, Linus is probably going to be check calling with a variety of aces, sometimes a hand like pocket queens, a Jack X type hand. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities where when Jason improves, he can continue to pile the money in on Linus. And now when the turn comes of 4, Jason now picks up some equity, now can represent backdoor equity when it comes through. And he continues to put on a lot of pressure. And now this is going to be a spot where if Linus had opened, King Jack, Queens, Ace 5 suited from under the gun, he's going to be put into a really, really disgusting situation. However, because he is checking his entire range here, Linus actually can have hands like pocket 7s, pocket aces, pocket jacks that decided to trap on the flop. He can have a variety of very, very strong hands here. And so that also means that on the turn, Linus can now jam on Jason. So this was an example where checking ace-king on the flop induced even a very strong opponent to put in a large percentage of his stack with initially 5 high and then a pair of 4s on an ace high board. So in your own games, I really recommend that on almost every board when you are in and out of position to players, you should be checking your entire range and then seeing what each of your opponents does before you make your next decision, whether it be a check call or a check raise when you have strong hands, or a very straightforward check fold when you have air and both of your opponents want to continue to put in money. So this is Alvin Teaches Poker. As always, check out my cash game course, overnightmonster.com, because frankly, if you were an overnight monster, you've known this stuff for 2 years and you've been blowing up cash games using this strategy for a long time. I recently did a fall update called the Iron Woodpecker, which I think sums up strategies on how to beat today's small stakes games very, very well. Happy 2022. Let's make a ton of money this year. Good luck, everyone.